Okay, Vinaka Vakalevu. Thank you so much, everybody. Mula Vinaka Noaie Mauri, Vinaka Vakalevu for joining us on this special Talanoa session with Professor Vilsoni Hereniko. He's joining me from the island of Oahu on the beautiful city of Honolulu. I'm logging in from the big island of Hawaii, from the small town of Hilo. And it's Sunday evening here in Hawaii. It's 15 minutes past 8 in the evening. And I hope that you will enjoy our Talanoa session that we will be sharing with you all today. So we are so happy that he's able to put aside at least 25 minutes to 30 minutes to share with us some of at least 2 projects that I'm really interested to hear about from Professor Vili. So Professor Vili, wakambulamanda to our dear friends who are watching us tonight.
Bula Vinaka, Dr. T, and Bula to everyone who's listening tonight. It's a real pleasure for me to be on your show, and I look forward to having this conversation with you.
Professor Vili. And I know a lot of people were very excited to see the Sina Tinirau short film that you put together that was given the award. I still have the program here with me, the Made in Hawaii Film Festival. And I was very proud to be present at the 4th annual Made in Hawaii Film Festival here in Hilo at the Hilo Palace Theater last weekend. And exactly last Sunday that I was there representing you, Professor Vili. But before we talk about the Sina Tinirau short film, maybe just like to ask you to share a little bit about yourself, maybe your village, your koro in Rotuma, and the place where you were raised as a young boy.
Okay, well, I grew up on Rotuma for the first 16 years of my life, from Mea Village, Hapmak, Itutiu. I went to school there. My parents were Reui and Hereniko. I'm the youngest of 11. And that seems like a long time ago. I was born in 1954. And then 1970, I won a scholarship and I went to Queen Victoria School to further my education. And then from there, I went to USP for my undergrad and then to England for my master's. I came back to USP and taught there for a number of years. And then I moved to Hawaii in 1991 after spending a year completing my dissertation at the East-West Center in 1990. Yeah, I've been here since. So it's about 31 years now since I left Fiji.
Wow, Sandin. And it seems like most of the work you do, whether it's filmmaking or writing or things that are creative in its form, always have some connection back home. Is that a way of you to acknowledge your upbringing, Professor Vili?
Yeah, well, you know, I guess when I think about what makes my work unique, or what makes me special, if you like, is the fact that I am from Rotuma, this tiny little dot in the Pacific Ocean that most people have never been to, let alone heard about. So I guess I discovered that being a Rotuman and having been raised with the values of hard work, generosity, humility, and you know, etc. Those wonderful values that make us who we are as Pacific Islanders. I realized that particularly at this time in my life, these things become much more valuable to me than they were, say, when I was in my teens and when I was, you know, just beginning my journey as an academic. So I found it very interesting it's almost like, you know, I'm what, 60, you know, 60, I'll be 68 this year. And when I think about the things that mean the most to me, it's the fact that, you know, I grew up in Rotuma, and that inside me, I carry with me Rotuman sensibilities, Rotuman values, Rotuman sense of aesthetics, and so on. And, you know, for anyone who's listening, who's probably thinking, well, you know, what does my culture, you know, it could be someone from, say, a small island, Tonga, Samoa, Tokelau, you know, Wallis and Fortuna, or any of those 300 islands or so from Fiji. Sometimes I think we think, well, who cares about where we come from? But I think the world is hungry for new stories, stories that have not been told before, because, you know, with the film industry, you know, all these franchises, whether it's Marvel, you know, movies, or James Bond, or whatever, it seems to me that Hollywood is running out of fresh stories to tell. And, you know, if we remember Disney, and Moana, I think, came out in 2015. You know, that's an example of a big studio going to the Pacific and mining the gold, quote unquote, to tell stories that would reach a global audience. And for us Pacific Islanders, I think the lesson to learn from that is that we should be telling our own stories. If we don't tell them, somebody else will tell them for us. And so we have a responsibility to own our own images, you know, to say, this is who we are, and this is how we want to be represented. Because if we don't do that, others will do it for us, and we'll just be consumers, not producers. And that's the thing that, for me, is very important for Pacific Islanders, to be in charge of our own representations, our own images. So that is why I tell these stories through film, through my plays, through my writing, even my academic writing. I try to infuse it with a Rotuman kind of sensibility, and sometimes I kind of tell personal stories that harken back to, you know, my childhood growing up in Rotuma, because I think these things make our writing, our storytelling much more interesting, much more unique, much more special. Yeah.
Vinaka as you said, there's so much hunger for these stories, and they are very fresh and original. And you're so right. If we are not careful, then we become the consumers over and over again of your own story that you have every right to share. Because it's been passed down from so many generations. Vinaka Bakalevu, Professor Vili, for encouraging us and making us feel empowered, right? To know that we own this story.
Yeah.
This story belongs to us, and we have every right to share it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not only that, but be proud of it. Be proud of, you know, there's no need to apologize for, say, using the Rotuman language. You know, in Cinema Tinirau, the animated short, there's a whole section where, you know, the eel is flirting with a beautiful maiden, and it's all in the Rotuman language. And I'm proud of it. You know, many people would say, wow, why would you want to do that? You know, it's like, but to me, by using the Rotuman language in these scenes that are very flirtatious, it gives the story a certain authenticity. It anchors it in the land of Rotuma and in the ocean of Rotuma, and that in a way resonates more deeply, you know, with the audience, because they feel like they're watching something that is authentic, because it's in the language of the place the story is from. And that is, I think, you know, it took me years to be kind of proud, you know, of the fact that I'm Rotuman and not to apologize, because, for example, when I first came to Hawaii and I was working at the Center for Pacific Island Studies, and we put out a map, and the map has the Pacific Ocean, but Rotuma is missing. And it used to really bother me because I would be teaching the specific courses and Rotuma wasn't even on the map. So one day I went to my boss then, he was a wonderful man, and I said, I'm teaching Pacific Island Studies and my island is not on the map. So how would my students know that it actually exists if it's not there? Can you please put my island on the map? And he said, well, it's part of Fiji, isn't it? So Fiji's on the map. So on the map, so, it's like the map is about nations. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, it's true that Fiji is there, but it's not the same as Rotuma. If you put Rotuma above Fiji, then your map would be more accurate, and he thought, and then eventually he got a new map design and he put Rotuma there, and that map still exists today. So I'm very proud of the fact that I went to him and I insisted that he put it there because, it's a way of saying we exist, I exist, and I'm proud of being from this island. And if you don't mind, it doesn't cost you anything. It's like it's no skin off your nose. Please just put it there because for me, it means everything. Yeah. So I guess the message there is be proud of where you come from, just never forget where you come from. And use that as your weapon, if you like, as a gift to tell stories, to connect with people, to move people, right? At the same time that you empower your own people and other Pacific Islanders to to take charge of their own images, our own images.
So to talk about Professor Willie for reminding us to be proud of who we are, and again, as you said very succinctly there, not to apologize. I love that. I love the fact that you own that space, you own your identity, and you remind other people that I'm from this place, I'm from Rotuma, and if you don't know where the island is, find it because it's there. So Vinaka Prof, and I'm glad that you made the Center for Pacific Island Studies bring that map, and it's still there today.
Yes.
Vinaka Prof for doing that. And again, today is a very special day for us too, because it's the end of the Rotuma Language Week that we're celebrating all over the world. And especially in Aotearoa, they're really pushing for the recognition and the visibility of the Rotuma language. What would you like to say to the organizers of the Language Week in Aotearoa and all over the world, and reminding our Rotumans who will be watching this recording about the importance of language and the Rotuma language in particular?
Yeah, when I was growing up in Rotuma, of course, I spoke Rotuman. Everybody there spoke Rotuman. I was very, very fluent in Rotuman. But, the English language has a way of displacing our own languages and replacing our own languages with, say, the English language, for better or worse, right? And I mentioned earlier on that I've been away from Rotuma for like 30 years, right? And here in Honolulu, there was a time when we had kind of a Rotuman association, but now it seems that all the Rotumans have left, and I don't know where they've gone to, to the continent or back to Fiji or Rotuma or wherever. So I'm in Honolulu, and I haven't actually seen Rotumans for quite a while. So I don't get a chance to speak the language. So, it's something I don't quite know what to do about it, except perhaps to go back to Rotuma more often, or try and meet other Rotumans and speak. But I think the fact that we have our own language, whether it's, Rotuman or Fijian or whatever, there is so much richness in terms of nuance, in terms of information in our own languages. And as you know, sometimes when we translate to English, it doesn't quite capture it. And so for me, that early foundation of the Rotuman language is so important, because later on when I learned English, it was like I became fluent in both Rotuman and in English. So, for Rotumans out there, I'd like to say, Noa Maori, no Vilsoni Hereniko, Fani Mea Hapmak, Itu Tiwe Rotuma, Hanisiof se Ausatakoa. So yeah, I think it's absolutely wonderful, the fact that Aotearoa, New Zealand, the Rotumans there are really, kind of cracking the whip in terms of, learn the language, and use it, because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And especially for the young people coming up, there is so much richness in the language. Language is the key that unlocks a culture.
Very good. Wow, that's awesome. So to all our Rotumans watching and listening in today, what a wonderful way to close the Rotuma Language Week 2022 to have Professor Vilsoni Hereniko joining us today to remind us, all of us, to maintain and keep using the language. As he rightfully said, if we don't use it, we lose it. So now we look forward to Rotuma Language Week 2023, and to all our Rotuma language students who are registered to learn the language throughout the year, all the very best. Keep learning, keep using it, and keep sharing this beautiful language. And now we're going to go to the Sina Tinirau film that you were referring to earlier on, which is part of the short film block for the Made in Hawaii Film Festival. And it was put under the Ho'omau Shots section, which you won in that section there. So if we can just talk a little bit about it, what encouraged you to create the film? And how did you feel in winning that section there for the Made in Hawaii Film Festival 2022, Professor Vil?
Oh, Vinaka. Well, my father was a great storyteller. And during moonlight nights, he would put a mat outside, and he would tell the so-called myths and legends of Rotuma to me and my brothers and sisters. And if you think of, say, The Land Has Eyes, Piata Mount Muff, it begins with the father telling stories, right? The founding myth of the island. So Sina Tinirau is very much in that vein. It's another story that my father told me when I was growing up. And so in the fall of my life, I've become my father, telling these stories, not to, Rotuman kids, but to a global audience, right? And so I've taken the gift that my father gave me and multiplied it, as the Bible encourages us to do, right? Take that gift and, give it away. And the thing about that story, when I think about the fact that it has survived, right? Generations and generations, it has been passed down. It's a very common story in Samoa, in Tonga, Tokelau, in the South Pacific, and it has different iterations, different versions in different, island countries. And when I think about that story, I realize it's really a story about unconditional love. That even though the eel is killed by the brothers of Sina, because the brothers don't want her to marry an eel, right? She's destined for better things, they thought. The eel, because the eel loves her so much, that he says, take my head to your home, dig a hole and put my head and bury me, and out of that will sprout, this coconut tree. It'll bear fruit, right? And everything about me you can use, the leaves for fans and hats and mats, and the trunk for carving, etc. The nuts, you can eat the flesh and you can drink. And when you open the mouth of the coconut and you make contact with the coconut and you drink from me, you drink my fresh, my refreshing nectar, you will be kissing me, right? So, so she does that, and the result of that is the origin of the coconut tree, which we call the tree of life. Now, to me, a story like that, which is like about unconditional love, is a story worth sharing, worth telling. But the other thing that I think is fascinating for me is that I didn't realize until I started to kind of unpack the meaning of Sina and the eel, or Sina and Tinirau, the name of the eel, is that it's really the counter, the hidden meaning there is racial prejudice, against black skin, by Rotuman people, by Samoans, by Polynesians. And so in that retelling, that's one of the themes that I wanted to bring out, that to help people realize that this prejudice against black skin, which seems to be kind of a worldwide phenomenon, right? It's not just, in Rotuma or Samoa, etc., is present, and that we need to address it, and we need to be aware of it, and we need to overcome it, right? And so for me, that is an added layer in the story that makes the telling much more important than just kind of the original story of how the coconut came to be. Yeah.
So Vinaka, for acknowledging your dad, for being such a great storyteller. And I think that's a lesson that families, young families that are listening in today, can also be reminded of the quality time with family. And I'm really glad that you acknowledge your dad. So to all the dads out there, you are also great storytellers, just like Professor Villy's dad. And I'm sure many of us often remind ourselves that our grandmothers or our mothers, our female line were storytellers, but in this case, also our fathers as well. Vinaka Vakalevu, Professor Villy, for acknowledging him, and again to acknowledge the gift that is given, not just to come and hide it, but you have to multiply it and share it to the world. Wow. And also, if I can read a few comments that was coming through, and congratulations, by the way, for the winning of that section there, the Homo shots last weekend. One lady here, her name is Fitu Mbalaunilotu. This is what she commented on my post. Congratulations, Professor Vilsoni Isa. I was in Form 6. I acted in the drama at the Playhouse in Suva, A Child for Eva, that he wrote directly by Larry Thomas. It was a wonderful experience. So there you go, Professor Villy. What would you like to say to Fitu?
Wow, well, thank you so much for those kind words. It certainly takes me way back. Yes, A Child for Eva actually is about the same issue of prejudice. Rotumans, that prejudice against Fijians, especially during the 50s and 60s, 70s. Now there's so much intermarriage between Rotumans and Fijians. I'm very happy to say it's almost like passe, the prejudice. But A Child for Eva is a 3-act play that actually explores that prejudice. And it was really based on the prejudice of my own family, which is very typical of Rotuman families at that time, that they did not want, the children to marry Fijians, and probably Fijians don't want Fijians to marry Rotumans, or Indians, right? Or Chinese for that matter. I think we all think that our own, ethnic group is the best in the whole world, right? So it's something that I think, fortunately, as society evolves and becomes more enlightened, we realize that skin color is really nothing. That's not what is important, right?
Yes.
And what is interesting is that it's not something that's, as I said, very specific to the South Pacific. It seems to be a worldwide, phenomenon. I mean, think of Black Lives Matter movement and white supremacy, all right, and all what's going on in the United States. I mean, what's that about? I mean, there's this recent killing that just happened, right? I mean, it's just it's something that seems to be pervasive. And it seems that we, as a people, as a society, we haven't really figured out how to solve this.
And I'm glad that your plays, these films are creating change, and these are ways that you are actually it's like your intervention. What do you think of?
Yes.
Yeah, is that right?
Yes, yeah. That's true. And but I must say that I'm very happy to say that the intermarriages between Rotumans and Fijians, I mean, it's just like my own family. I mean, I've kind of lost count of how it's like just about half my family are now married to Fijians, and so it's just wonderful to see this shift, and the change in people's attitudes. Though I have not seen that happen much, say, between Fijians and Indians. Have you?
I think it's slowly. I'm sure the stereotype was there, maybe I say 20 years ago, but even within my family, I've got my older sister and my first cousin married to men who are half Fijian and half Indian.
Wow.
And they have beautiful children, and I have my, it's really nice to see that it's now accepted. But before that, it was a huge stigma, that we all hear, like tambuk, nobody's hiding it, wow.
Yeah, right, amazing, amazing.
But I'm just so admirable of my cousins and my older sister who just took it on and said, no, I love this person.
Right.
It doesn't care what color they come in or what kind of hair they have or whatever things that you think about. He's a human being and I love him. That's all that matters.
Yeah, well, that's what Cinema Tinirau is about. But the thing about the ending of that is she has to elope with him, right? Because staying there could probably, get killed by her brothers, and in some ways, I think it's very courageous of people who break these barriers, and cross over to the other side and say, I don't care if you don't like the person I'm marrying because, I don't agree with your prejudice. Those people really, I think, they're the heroes. They're the ones who are willing to take that extra step to move society forward, in our fight for equality and, recognition.
Sa totoo ka sarangabi. Nakawakalevo, Professor Vili, for highlighting these issues, which all of us, those who are listening in, and even between you and I, we have real stories within our own family, as you have said. I also have my own share, but it's nice that your film is allowing us to ask these hard questions and change our attitude. I think that's the most important thing that we learn from your work. Are you going to be making more films? That's what a lot of people are asking me when they saw the post.
Yeah. Well, I'm making a documentary with three Hawaiian filmmakers. They're younger filmmakers, very talented, and it's four vignettes looking at four Hawaiian cultural practitioners and their relationship with new. For example, one of them does hula new, which is kind of performing hula using new related implements, and kind of the lyrics of the songs, kind of paying homage to new. That's one of them. Another one is Kupuna, an elder who bemoans the loss of new culture in Hawaii, and how he's trying to, revive that relationship, that connection that has been lost. And then there are two others. But I think that the whole idea about that is to try and address the fact that in Hawaii, food security is a big issue, and it's going to become even worse if you think of all the food that we import from the continent. And so there is a movement in Hawaii called Niu Now, which is led by Manu Maya and Indrajit Gunasakera from Sri Lanka. And they're growing coconut groves at UH West Oahu on the Ever side and with Mao farms. And the thing is, these coconut trees take about 6 to 7 years to fruit. But this movement where the young people at UH West Oahu have been mobilized and kind of taken on this project, it's going to be very exciting to see where it takes us, because I won't be surprised if in 6 to 7 years' time, the importance of the coconut tree, and how it used to be in Hawaii, and then Hawaiians lost it, especially on Oahu and in the city, etc. I think that would be very exciting, and it definitely helped with food security. And I myself, my car has 3 coconuts, and I buy them at the market, and then I go to Ala Moana with my machete, and I open it, and I drink it, and then I eat the flesh, and people look at me funny, and I say, I don't care, I love drinking, new and eating the flesh. But to me, it's such a shame, because it's like, here's this wonderful product, and yet people have lost that connection with the coconut tree. It's just a pretty thing dancing in the wind. I was actually weaving a coconut basket at the beach today in front of Hilton Hawaiian Village. And there were Micronesians, playing music and barbecuing, and we started talking. They're from Chuk, and they were very interested in what I was doing. So I shared my coconut flesh with an older woman who looked like she was very interested in my coconut. But what I found interesting was a young man came along and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm weaving this." And then he said, "Can you weave me a basket?" And I said, "Oh yeah, what for?" And said, "So I can put my betel nut inside the basket." I said, "But this is a big basket. You have this much betel nut." Anyway, and I was thinking, well, what a shame that this young man doesn't know how to weave, and he's asking me, like the dinosaur, one remaining dinosaur in Waikiki, to weave something for his betel nut, I guess one thing I would really like to see happen is we reclaim this connection with the tree, especially in Hawaii, and make use of the leaves and the trunk, and all these wonderful things that you can use with the coconut tree. And that, well, I'm very passionate about that. As you know, there's an art exhibition. I have, 3 woven coconut baskets at Chinatown. There's an exhibition there. It lasts until the 29th of May. And they actually looked to Cinema Tinirau. I give them permission to screen it for free. So anyone who wants to see the film for free can go there and have a look at the art exhibition, which focuses solely on the coconut tree and related, products from it. And I feel very proud to be part of that. So, I'm weaving with coconut leaves. I'm part of the New Now movement. And I made 2 short films on the coconut tree, and I'm making a documentary on the coconut tree. So the coconut is coming out of my ears. I mean, who would have thought, right? When I was growing up on Rotuma, I just took it for granted. It's just like they're everywhere, right? And now, they're everywhere and nowhere, because the trees are just standing there for the benefit of the tourists. There are no coconuts on them, because the young coconuts are aborted when they're very young. And so, for me to get these coconuts, I have to go to a farmer's market and buy them. They sell them about $7 for a coconut. Wow. Yeah. And I have my machete, so I just take it to the park and I cut it up myself. Yeah, because it costs more if they do it for you.
Right.
But anyway, this is life in the city, Dr. T.
Yes,
Yeah, you want boo, you have to go and buy it.
Yes, sir. Now I think about the young man in Fiji, and supermarket Rewanga, they sell it for $2, I think, for one boo. And you're so right. The boo has so much benefits. It's good for you. It's good for the body. I even remembered when my sister-in-law was very sick, one of the requirements was for her to drink the boo every morning, because there's some, is it the electrolytes? Is that what they say is inside the boo?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's easy to take these things for granted when they're everywhere, but when they're nowhere, then you kind of miss them. So one of my short films that I made during COVID is about the coconut trees of Waikiki, coconuts on them, because when everyone was in hiding, in lockdown, the coconut trees, and the coconuts came back on the trees. And because everyone was hiding, no one was cutting them, it was like huge coconut grove. It was like I was back in Rotuma. So I was very inspired by this tree that is long-suffering, patient, resilient, humble, even though it's been much maligned, and mocked and, belittled by everybody, and kind of reduced in Hawaii to be a symbol of kind of paradise. But it's really meant to sustain us, right? For our whole life. When I was in Rotuma, I was feeding the chickens and I was feeding the pigs with this. And sometimes the chickens, they'd be eating the flesh, and I'd be eating the flesh too. So we'd be competing for it. Anyway, you see, I can talk forever about the coconut tree. It's crazy, right? I'm supposed to be talking about other things.
That is just awesome, because that was actually the second topic which you have already led to, the new movement, this new projects that you are doing, and that's really, really admirable, Professor Villian. Yeah, we look forward to see the documentaries that you are working on, and the exhibition that is currently in Honolulu. For those of you who are watching, if you're happening to be in Honolulu before the end of May, you're welcome to go and see the exhibition. And it's really nice to see your beautiful weaving of the coconut leaves in the middle of all this artwork, which are, to me, just so beautiful to see. Yes, things that we often look down upon. It's an equivalent to an amazing painting. Sa totoo ka, Saranga?
Yeah. Well, the thing about these baskets is that, my father taught me to weave when I was about 10. And in Rotuma, when the men put the food in the earthen oven, in the lovo, or in the koa, is what Rotumans call it, then they weave these coconut baskets. They were rather crude. Because, and then when they open the lovo, then they put the taro and the bananas and the fish and the chicken, etc., inside the basket, and then they take them to present, right? Say at a wedding or at an important ceremony, or to take them to the house. So what I've done with these baskets that we're talking about is I took that foundational kind of weaving and then improvised, and over a period of time created a new kind of basket that becomes a work of art. So it's kind of elevating the humble coconut tree to the status of, as you said, it's like a painting. It's hanging over there, but actually I also use them to go to the market and I put my avocado and my bananas and my mangoes in my basket, and people stop me and say, "Oh, that looks cool. Where did you get that?" I wove it myself. It kind of, I feel like I'm very subversive. Here I am living in the middle of Honolulu, and my house is full of coconut baskets, and I'm carrying coconut, basket to the market, putting my things in it, wearing coconut hats. Anyway, very soon I'll become a coconut tree.
But it's so wonderful that you become the voice of the tree of life, the coconut tree. And you're reminding all of us, that this coconut, this tree is our life, right? You get the food, you get the drinks, the coconut cream, the sinat, mangi, the house, everything, the list goes on, yeah? So we're just so happy that you become the new ambassador. And I'm sure there will be young people listening in to be reminded today, don't be shy. So don't be shy about anything to do with coconuts, because it gave us life for our parents, our grandparents, and everybody before us. Yes, Professor Vili, we appreciate your time to sit with me today and share your story. To conclude our Talanoa, I'll give it back to you if you have any words of advice for young people, the young Rotumans out there, young Fijians, especially with the environment and how we need to be connected with what's out there, because that was our life back in the past.
Yeah. Well, maybe in conclusion, I should read this poem, right? Which was kind of downloaded into my brain by the coconut tree, because I was going to, this was during COVID, I was going to swim, and I felt like, oh, looks like that coconut tree is talking to, like it's calling me, and I was looking for a green leaf to weave from. It's like the leaves are everywhere and nowhere, because I don't have access to them. I don't own them. And then I saw this kind of brown coconut leaf hanging on the tree. And I thought, I've never woven from a brown, old coconut leaf, but maybe I can take that and weave a hat, right? But it's weird, because I felt like the coconut tree was calling me, right? And then so I went and I cut it down, I wove a nice hat from it. And while I was weaving, it's almost like this poem was downloaded into my brain. It just came to me like that. So I'll see if I can remember it, all right? So it's from the point of view of the leaf of the coconut tree and the coconut tree itself. So it's called, it's sort of an ode to the coconut tree, and it goes like this, referring to the leaf. When I'm old and drooping, don't walk by without saying hello to me. You drank from me. You ate my flesh too. My leaves gave you shelter. Remember? So take a part of me and make me a part of you. So feel me, caress me like you've never done before. Be patient with me, be gentle too. And together, you and I will give birth to new creations. So that's where I am in my life now, with new, giving birth to new creations.
Faeksia, for sharing that beautiful poem with us, and what a way to conclude our Talanoa today, as well as to officially celebrate and conclude the Rotuma Language Week. You are always an inspiration to many of us. As I said to you, a lot of the comments coming through with my post and your post, it's like over a week now, exactly a week of when I put up the post, and the comments are still coming in. Those who remembered you as a teacher, those who remembered you through the plays that you've written, and just so many people you have touched their lives, ever since they were young. Many of them are grandmothers now, many of them are grandfathers, and they still remembering that very moment of those creative opportunities that they were given when they were small back in Fiji. So from all of us, Professor Vili, we wish you all the very best in the coming summer. Enjoy your time away from Hawaii, wherever you're going to be traveling to, and also the documentaries that you are going to be releasing in the coming months. And also from all of us, congratulations for winning the Ho'omau Shots for Cinema Tinirau. Vinaka Vakaleo.
Vinaka Vakaleo, Dr. T. Mo demanda fua musma olalum.
So Vinaka Vakaleo, mo demanda Professor Vili Naka.
Okay.
Yes, Vinaka Vakaleo. Wow, yes. For those of you watching this recording, I'm sure you really enjoyed listening to Professor Vili, and he's just an amazing man with so much knowledge to share with all of us. On behalf of the people of Rotuma and on behalf of the University of Hawaii, where we both work, we just wanted to share our Loloma and our love to you all. So I was really, really fortunate to represent him last Sunday for the 4th annual Made in Hawaii Film Festival, and his film, the short film, Cinema Tinirau, a story based in Rotuma, won that section on the Ho'omau shots. Yeah. So Vinaka Vakaleo. So to conclude our Talanoa tonight, I will conclude with a song, beautiful song from Rako Pasefika. Vinaka Vakaleo Letila Mitchell for sharing this beautiful music with all of us, which is a beautiful song from Rotuma. Vinaka Vakaleo, and again, Loloma to everybody from Rotuma. And again, if you're learning the Vaka Rotuma, all the very best to you.
Hapo. Raota uma a Rotuma, Raota uma a Rotuma, nefu ewo, ne Pasefika. Nis opola mane ahaharangi hoi hoi Siliang oki a whenga mau Oki a whenga ne o I ea ea whate Ela mane a ete Hente ela mane a mase Tra la 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 Mayon la elia Noa tofu e palanasta Onia kia ase afnaha Kuya helava Rotuma a Rotuma Nefu ewo ne Pasefika
Sa totokan din na sere meberto na Rako Pasefika nakabali sa bikim ni na wakarong tikumay nambong binakadiko na nero Talanoa kay Professor Vilsoni Hereniko. Ang sawak mo kan bikim ni maneto Hawaii Loloma ni bida na miniti yaua do na yaua bi mama goenda na vital na tukina kay Sireli Rabubu. Doktor man na Sireli Sikeli Rabubu, the Roboni na Kursule, may Nitasiri, and may Vital Notikino Weekend, and Bula Satava, and Rendreni no Buli, Lutubakatolo na Fomono, like Buli Kinoko and Mato program in Ambo Secondary School, Kamani Turkina no Koroi, and Vidangana Six Saudi Meviti. Onitakan Nina Siamatikumai, and a Vital Longo Savakuman and Vikimni, Faeksia, Vinaka Lebu, Nisamarita.